If you're wondering how to pay for college without wrecking your retirement or drowning in student debt, you're in the right place. I'm Joe, the College Pro, and today I'm walking you through the 5 most common ways families borrow for college. I'll break down the pros, the cons, and those hidden traps and help you figure out which strategy might actually be best for you and your family. Whether you've got a high school senior or you're just getting started, this could save your family thousands. So let's dive in. Let's start with the most common loan, the Federal Direct Student Loan, used to be called the Stafford Loan. Well, it's going to come in two types, subsidized and unsubsidized. Both are offered when you file the FAFSA. And the best part, no credit check, no cosigner, same rate for all undergrad students, and repayment doesn't start until 6 months after graduation. Now, here's what most people don't know. Subsidized loans are based on financial need, and while you're in school, they collect zero interest. Good loan. Unsubsidized loan, well, the interest starts as soon as the loan disperses. Now, you don't get to choose which one you get. It depends entirely on your family's student aid index and the school's cost of attendance. Now, it's also important to know that these loans max out at a probably low amount, $5,500 year one, $6,500 year two, and $7,500 for years 3 and 4. They help, but they're not enough to cover everything. Now let's talk about the other federal loan that's out there, the Parent Plus loan. And I'm going to be blunt. Tread carefully. This is a federal loan, but it's for the parent, not the student. It has a 4% origination fee, a higher interest rate than the student loan, and payments typically are going to start within 30 to 60 days of disbursement. Now you can defer them, but the interest will keep adding up. And here is the trap. Families think they can afford maybe using this loan freshman year, but by junior or senior year, they have stacked up so much debt that they're paying thousands per month. A Parent Plus loan cannot be discharged in bankruptcy. They'll follow you into retirement. Even your Social Security can be garnished if you can't make these payments. In all honesty, the only upside that I can see with the Parent Plus loan is if the parent or the student passes away. If that happens, the loan's forgiven. But that's about the only upside to that loan. After the federal options comes borrowing on the private side of things. So once federal loans are maxed out, mainly the student ones, most families can turn to private loans. Now, here's what they don't realize. An 18-year-old cannot borrow the full cost of attendance alone. They are going to need a cosigner, and usually that's a parent. Now, the approval process can be very fast, but every lender will offer different terms, different rates, and different repayment plans. So it's important to shop, definitely shop around. You can use tools like Credible, Lending Tree, or check to see if your state has their own type of loan program. You have to know what kind of loan you're getting, whether it's fixed or a variable rate. Is it a 5 year term or a 15-year term? Is it full deferment? Do you make interest only payments or minimum payments while you're in school? These are all important. But also, these loans usually only cover one academic year. You may qualify freshman year, but if all of a sudden that cosigner has a very high debt to income ratio, you can be denied later. And that's a real risk. The other thing is that cosigners are fully liable. Many loans don't forgive on the death or disability of the cosigner or student, and most are not going to offer any type of income driven repayment plan. So you have to shop and know which ones are truly going to be able to be paid back based on your family situation. But please shop. There is no best loan that exists out there when you're going into the private sector. Now, an option not many people may think about because it may be too scary is borrowing against your home. So let's talk about it. You can use a second mortgage, a cash out refinance, or a home equity line of credit, also known as a HELOC. Now, for some families, this can be a really smart option. Rates are often lower than a plus or private loan, and HELOCs give you interest only payment options and flexibility to borrow what you need and when you need it. But here's a FAFSA trap. Home equity itself doesn't count against you. But when you pull cash out and park it in your bank account, that does count. And that can increase your student aid index the following year. So if you go this route, you have to be disciplined. Draw monthly, not in a big lump sum. Pair it with a school's payment plan. And do not use that equity for anything but college. Now, a big downside with using these, if especially if you go the HELOC route, is interest rates are variable. But in any case, if you miss payments, you're putting your house on the line. So it obviously can be a pretty risky move when it's all said and done. Now, if you have multiple kids and you're borrowing for your first child, you may want to consider some type of equity play. The reason why is that if your younger children will be attending school, it only requires one loan that may get multiple kids through school. Also, if the school is using the CSS profile, when you borrow equity against your home, you are now showing less equity in their formula, which means the schools may say your next child can actually afford less because you're showing less assets. If you're going to go this route, I highly recommend using a professional, one that knows the financial aid system. Don't just try and do this one on your own because there is a lot of risk. But if used correctly, it could be a very good option about how you go paying for college if you don't have the assets today. Now, the next option, in my opinion, it's a last resort, and that is borrowing from your 401k or 403b or any type of retirement plan that you can. Now, yes, this is your money. And yes, the interest rate is usually favorable. There are some benefits about borrowing and paying yourself back, but you can only borrow up to $50,000 or half of your vested balance, whichever is lower. So that might only cover 1 year. And most plans don't let you take a second loan until the first one is paid off. Now, the biggest danger is that if you leave your job or you lose it, your loan balance is going to be due immediately. And if you can't pay, it's going to be treated as a taxable distribution. And if you're under 59 and a half, you're going to be hit with a 10% penalty on top of it. The other big thing is that income will now show up on the following year's FAFSA, and it could blow up financial aid, especially if you have younger kids. The only scenario where I see this being considered is if you own your own business or you're not leaving your job and you have control over it. You have control over the 401k, like a solo 401k. That may be the only time that I think this is a viable option. So, what's the takeaway here? It's not about avoiding debt at all costs. It's about borrowing with strategy. You need to know your loan options. You need to understand how each one impacts your aid and your future cash flow. You need to build a plan to repay before you borrow. And this is something that I do for families every day. If you're not sure which route is right for you, let's talk. You can book your session with me, Joe the College Pro, at joethecollegepro.com, and we can make sure that you're borrowing smart and not just surviving. Thanks for watching. If this video helped you, give it a like, subscribe, and share it with a parent who needs to see it. Feel free to drop your questions in the comments because I'll answer every single one. So until next time, stay smart, stay strategic, and stay sane.